Hi everybody, it's 1 o'clock and I'm going to go ahead and get started. That's not to imply that it bothers me if somebody comes in a little bit late because they may be running behind with classes and so forth. But today's topic is grade books and basic grades inside of D2L, which we on campus often call Momentum. And we're going to start by when you first come into Momentum or D2L. You just go inside of one of your courses. I'm going to go into a dummy course that I've set up. And then for most people, if you haven't set up a customized navbar, your grades will be located under assessments. And so you just click on assessments and then the drop down gives you grades. And to get oriented, really one of the most important things that you can learn when you're first starting grades is to know the difference between all these different areas: inner grades, managed grades, schemes, your setup wizard, and then this little friend right over here, settings, which all of which are important, and you need a general idea of what they are so we can get started. So we're going to start with inner grades. Inner grades I'm going to click on, and there's nothing there yet, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing. Because we don't have a grade book set up. But inner grades, you want to conceptually think of that as, this is the place that I go to put 82, 84, 78, 100, 94 in a column for your students. In other words, this is the place where you literally record or view grades for particular items. So that's what inner grades is. What is managed grades? Managed grades presents in a table format all of the grade book that you've got and how you can set that up and manipulate it. In other words, if you want to create a grade book, managed grades is the place to be. Schemes is a place that today I'm going to teach you that you don't need to be in. Schemes is an advanced user, somebody who is an intermediate or advanced user who wants to set up something more unusual. For example, an English instructor like Jennifer Jordan Henley, who instead of having numbers wants to have letters for a evaluation of a paragraph, and maybe wants those numbers / letters to be outside of the normal parameters, meaning that 85 to 100 is an A, 70 to 84 is a B. If you want to do unusual things, that's over in schemes, and as I said, that's more of an advanced user thing. Then you've got your setup wizard, which I'll admit most of the instructors at Roane State have sort of indicated to me that they really didn't use the setup wizard, that they tended to just use managed grades to do their things. And then over on the right, what I told you was also important was settings. And the reason why settings is important is because the very first thing that we want to do when we go to settings is look at your personal display options. That means, how do you want your gradebook to show for you, the teacher? Or unit display options, which means, how do you want the gradebook to show or display for your students? And then calculation options, that last tab. Calculation options is, believe it or not, your starting place to decide, this is the kind of gradebook that I want. Your two most popular gradebooks are, at Roane State, we call it percentage. This system calls it weighted. And if you look right there, you see the word weighted. An example is provided underneath it, that if you're the type of instructor who says, all right, your final exam is worth this amount of your overall grade. Your homework is worth this amount of your overall grade. If you're working on a percentage basis, you'd want to switch that over to weighted. And since that's one of the two gradebooks that we're setting up today, I'm going to switch this, move the radial button up from points by default to weighted. And then all I do is go to the bottom and click Save. We'll come back to this area in our next class to show us two other ways to do that. It does give me a warning, you're about to save changes, and you say yes. And then, poof, you have now saved and changed that over to a weighted system. So if that's true, then let's come back into grades again and go to manage grades, because I've now chosen a percentage system. So now how do I actually set that system up? When you're inside of manage grades, you'll see the new button right here, And when you click on that drop down, you only have two options. So that's good. That's nice and easy. You have items and categories. Items are specific. Categories are broad. So what do I mean by that? An item is specific. Quiz 3, homework 9, case study 4. Categories are big and broad. You might think of them as groups under which you'll have several specific items. You can also remember that categories come first because categories alphabetically, C comes before I. So we're going to create a category, and we're going to create that category called Major Exams. Let's imagine that that category is worth a weight or a percentage of 40%. I'm going to distribute all things inside of it equally, which means that whatever exams are underneath that, they'll all be given the same weight. And if I wanted to drop one, I would just simply put a number right there. Number of lowest non-bonus items to drop for each user. Then I can either save in new, or save in close. Save means I just want to save my work. Save in new will bring me right back to this area so I can create another category. That's just designed to speed up quickness. And then save in close will save this and then bring me back out to the screen where I just was. I'm going to click Save in New just for speed. Then let's do homework. And let's say homework is worth 20%. Distribute and maybe drop 2. Then let's create case studies. Let's say that's worth 20%. Distribute. And this time I'm going to click Save and Close. And why am I doing that? I want to show you the warning that I got. That I thought, let's imagine that I'm a little ditzy and scatterbrained. And I thought that I was finished. I get this warning up at the top that says, whoa, you're not done. You've only gone to 80%. So you must have forgotten something in there. So I can create another category to, cancel out my mistake. And let's call this assignments. It's worth 20%. I distribute across all equally. And then I save and close. When I do that, I notice that warning up there is gone. And now I can start the specifics. For example, with major exams, I can click New and Item. And remember, Item, very specific. When I choose Item, it says, all right, what kind of item do you want? And let's be honest, since this is a basic session, always choose numeric until Darren tells you otherwise. In other words, select box, pass, fail, formula, calculated text. None of those are going to be things that you use 99% of the time. Just always choose numeric unless you've got something strange. And if you've got something strange, you probably want to call CTAP, and we can talk through some of those options. Having chosen numeric, then let's say that my first major exam is the midterm. I type in the name midterm. I place it inside the category. As soon as I do that, then it knows where to put it in terms of the weight. That's a good thing. It saves you time. And let's say that this midterm is worth 100 points. In other words, it's, the score up at the top, the most you could make if you had a perfect score was 100. So I put 100, and then I click Save and Close. When I do that, I'll come right back out. Notice the indentation. Also notice that categories are dark, kind of a soft gray, and items are white. If an item is classified underneath the category, it's indented underneath it. That's a good way to keep track and know what's going on. As soon as I keep adding on, I could add on a final 4 or 5 homeworks, case studies, my assignments, and build my grade book item by item. I'm going to do one more item just to get you comfortable with that. This time I'm going to do an item numeric, and we're going to add that homework 1. And we're going to put that in the category of homework. Let's say it's also worth 100 points. Doesn't mean you have to do 100 points. People, for example, Ralph May has a homework assignment that's worth 43, and then the next week it's worth 36. You can do whatever you need and however you choose. But the important things are to classify it in that category and to assign the point value to it. So now we've created our first grade book. This is a percentage grade book. And we've got all of our categories up on the wall. All we've got to do is just create our items. Also, remember your speed tips, that you have the ability to do save and new so that you can rapidly build very fast if you want to do that all at once. Or if you prefer, you can build your grade book little by little, piece by piece over the course of the semester. Really just personal preference on that. Now, let's say that you're not the type of instructor who wants to build a percentage grade book. That's just not your thing. You're the type of instructor that when students ask you a question about how much something is worth, you say, well, there are 850 total points over the course of the semester. This is worth 250. This assignment's worth 40. This assignment's worth 100. If you're more of a pure points, don't get into percentages kind of person, then how do you set up that grade book? The answer is you go inside your course and you get to save a step. Of course, you do have to click on assessments and then grades, but by default, when you enter manage grades, your gradebook is automatically set up to go on a points system. And how do I know that? Well, here's one way right here. Max points. Notice that right there. And I'm going to wave my cursor around it so you can zero in on it. Max points. That's a different indication from weighted or percentage. So by default, my settings are also, my settings are automatically set up to be a points-based system. Now, let's say that you're paranoid and you want to double check just to be sure. All you'd have to do is just click on settings right there up at the top in the upper right-hand corner. Once I click on settings, and boy, it sure does seem like that's a long, slow click. Somebody's stealing my bandwidth at Rome State. I'm going to blame the OTA students. Hey! What happened to my bandwidth? And why am I not going anywhere? I'm just going to sit here and smile pretty because all you can do is wait. And boom, now we're there. Calculation options right there. And again, all we're doing is just double checking to make sure that we're on a point system. And our point system allocated right there. It gives you an example that says, hey, if you're this type of teacher, this is what you do. And again, as I said, your point system is set up exactly automatically to give you a points system without you even having to do anything. You only have to change that setting if you want to go from points to percentage. So let's say that you want to set up a point system. You probably still want to have categories. And let's do similar categories to what we did before. Homework. And if I know that every item inside of the homework is going to be worth a specific amount, consistently always the same, then I could distribute the points across. Just make things easy for me so that I could create faster. If I don't want to do that, I don't have to. In other words, if each one is going to be a different point value, this week it's 20, next week it's 40, a week after that it's 20 again, then I don't have to distribute. But for simplicity's sake, let's say that all of the homework items are worth 50. I could distribute, put a 50, and then let's say that we're also going to drop one. And I'm going to save and close. When I come back, I see that I've created my category. So let's create an item underneath that category. Let's create numeric, homework 1. And notice that when I put it in the category, it automatically shifts. It knows how many points I want. So literally all I have to do is just put that name in there, put the category on the drop down. It puts the points in for me automatically. If I click save and close, boom, I'm right back on the wall. And there it is, it's got it done. I could also create multiple things very, very quickly. Now, some things that you're going to wonder about, regardless of whether you have a grade book that's percentage or points, how do I tweak, rearrange, and change my grade book? when you either make mistakes or forget to add something in. Those involve the drop downs. You've got more actions right here. This will lead you to a place where you can delete. This will lead you to a place where you can shuffle the order. For example, let's say that I want my homework category to be third instead of first. If I've got multiple categories on the wall, I can shuffle that order. I can also reorder within a category, meaning, let's say I accidentally put homework 2 above homework 1 and I need to reorder in there. So it takes care of both of those issues. And then you've got the event log, which is actually a great little tool. Many times as teachers, we find ourselves not really sure, did I give Bethany that bonus or did I not? In my mind, I told myself that I was going to remember to award her 5 points on that quiz, but I don't remember if I actually did. Your event log, which is located here and also in inner grades, will allow you to look and see all of the things that you've done right down to the date, the time, the second, so that you can see if you've made a mistake, accidentally put a grade in the wrong spot, or have you awarded something, have you not, have you given a curve, have you not. It's a very valuable tool that you won't use all the time, but it comes in handy when you need it. So now that I've created this, I'm going to click on Enter Grades and show this. I'm also going to need a student in the class. And the reason why I need a student in the class is because if I'm in the gradebook and there are no students, there's no way to really see any columns or grades. So let's get a student into that class right fast and let you see what it is like to enter grades in a course. You should also know, since I'm throwing one in, if you ever have a need for a fake student, let us know. You can contact any member of CTAP. Any of us can create a fake student for you and embed that student in your course so that you've got an idea of what's going on or how things look from a student's perspective. Now, the reason why I'm adding that is because in order for grades to display, I have to have a student in the house. So now that I've got my gradebook set up, notice that I've got my categories up here, homework, major exams, etc. And then I've got my midterm and my homework and so forth. As I build my gradebook, more and more columns are going to show up. And if I've made any major mistakes, things that really frighten the system, I can see a warning up at the top. You should also know one of the most common questions that many people have about the gradebook is, I don't know, how would I put somebody's midterm score in there? Well, there are actually 2 ways to do this. One would be use the drop-down arrow that's right by the column. For example, right in here, there's my drop-down. I click on this, and I could go to Grade All. That will take me to a place where I can put the score in the blank. But let's imagine that you don't like that system. That rather than doing the click on the drop-down and then do Grade All and then go inside and then click and then put the numbers in, let's imagine that you want a different system. Over here on the right, you have Switch to Spreadsheet View. You can click on that, and it will just put individual boxes for each column for each student so that you can just record right from that screen and then save. Again, it's personal preference as to which option you want, but very often some instructors like the spreadsheet view. They just kind of feel like it's faster. Other people like the approach of, no, I want to be able to click in, do my work, save it, and come back out. And then on the front screen, it's display only. It's really just up to you as to what it is that you want. Now, having said all of that, 1 or 2 other common questions. Can you import from Excel? Yes, but you probably want to make sure that you call a CTAT staff member in case something goes wrong. an extremely complicated Excel spreadsheet might have a quirk on the import. Can you export to Excel? Yes. And both of those buttons are located right there in the upper left-hand area when you're inside of Enter Grades. All right. I won't tell you that grades and quizzes are easy. They are the two most complicated tools. They do generate the most questions in CTAT in terms of use, quirks, and individual preferences. But hopefully today you've learned some good, strong, basic skills so that whether you want to set up a points-based system or a percentage-based system, you feel comfortable that you could go into settings, click on calculation options, choose which method you want, points versus percentage, and then go into manage grades and start building those categories and building those items. If you have any questions, just let us know, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions either by email, phone, or in person if you want to drop by. So come on over to CTAT and see us. Have a good afternoon. We appreciate your attention and your time.